Hi, everyone. Well, first of all, very happy International Women's Day to all of you. I am super excited. First of all, I always enjoy talking to the amazing, intellectually stimulating leaders in the industry. And I'm so happy to have a wonderful panel today who will be really talking not just about celebrating today as the International Women's Day, but also talking about their journey, their ups and downs. And, a lot of times I feel like people will come up and say, oh, you've succeeded so much. But I think a lot of heartaches and struggles that go on, which are super real, and how you navigate those real challenges is really where the essence is, the learning is, the growth is. So I'm super excited again to have the panel here. A very happy International Day to all of you. Happy International Day to all the WLDA ladies, all the women in data, AI, data science, and women leaders all around the world. I feel like you don't have to have the title. No matter which position you are a leader for at home, at work, wherever you show up, and you have the courage to do more every single day and give your best. I'm Asha Saxena. I am the founder and CEO of Women Leaders in Data and AI. I've been many things before: a programmer, engagement manager, a CEO, a director, board of director, a coach, a professor at Columbia University. But my favorite role of all time is to be here. Yesterday, Kamaini and I were at an event in New York Stock Exchange. And he say, beautiful thing, he's as a mentor, you turn the light on for somebody. It's like an aha moment you create. And as a sponsor, you showcase the light on the person. So as a sponsor, I feel I am so honored to be in this position, to be able to put the light and shine the light on all the women who are in my life, and hopefully the women who come in my life, and be able to be the cheerleader and the champion. So super proud to say that I am leading the organization Women Leaders in Data and AI. And I am accompanied here with the leaders who pay forward, volunteer, and engage in this activity. I'm going to ask Samta, the winner of the first Women Leaders Award. I always see you smile. And I was just telling you earlier, Samta, I've seen you in hard situations. We never hung out as friends, but I've seen you at work. I've seen you in business meetings. I've seen you in podcasts. And the only thing I see you is smile no matter what is happening. So first of all, a very happy International Women's Day to you. Who would you like to wish happy International Women's Day today?
Thank you, Asha, and thank you for having me. WLDA is a game changer for me, as I keep telling you, and I love the organization a lot. Not only because I can vent whenever I need to with all my peers and my women leaders, but also because there's a lot that we gain from each other's experiences, and professionally as well as personally. So thank you for setting it up. And happy International Women's Day to everyone who's out there and listening. This day is very special to me, Asha, and I'm not going to thank one person, but I'm going to thank all the women in my life who have helped me in some way, shape, or form, either picked me up when I was down, or when I was up, they put the light on me, right? So just like you said, like I've had the privilege of having a lot of women in my life like that, and I want to thank each one of them.
Thank you. Kamaini, you've been, I met you 2 years back, and when you joined WLDA, I have to say, you raised your hand every time there was a request to pay forward. You jumped in, you said, the entire content, the virtual content, you lead that content, you prep the speakers, you jump right in to make sure that these women leaders are shown in the best light possible. A lot of times people will say, what advice would you give a younger woman who's coming in the career? And I always say, show up with the best content you can. Don't worry about how you look, how you dress so much. Most important thing is you're walking in a room to add value, with the content. And I have to tell you, Kamaini, you are an example of what that statement is. You show up with content no matter where you go. And I love the way you put your soul into making the events the best events in WLDA. I want to really recognize that your leadership, and I want to recognize what you do for not only Wilda, but also the women leaders you meet. So thank you for that. Happy International Women's Day to you. Who would you like to wish International Women's Day to?
So I think I'm going to follow Samta's lead here, right? Asha, I think for us that have had the opportunities, that have had the positions that we now hold, and these are positions of privilege, honestly, truly. I think there is no one person. If you're first in anything in life, there's a whole cast of characters behind you that you're not seeing. So I wish we could acknowledge just the one person. So I'll leave it at, Happy International Women's Day to all of the women, friends, my personal pick-me-up and coaches, as well as my professional ones, and more so my professional ones, because that's quite frankly our last frontier of parity of gender representation that we haven't fixed, and we've slided back in the last 2.5 years. So for my thank yous and acknowledgements, I think I would say just a couple of role models in my life in a professional sense that, I just would not be the same without. And just coming out of the event yesterday at the New York Stock Exchange boardroom, hosted by a data vendor I'm not going to try to name yet, but the idea was that, look, the younger women are looking for role models. And if you don't have enough women role models, who are you really trying to ape? Are you trying to ape what is not intrinsically natural to your gender, in your leadership style, in your behaviorism, in the ways you bring value in a conversation? And so to me, those, 2 or 3 that I'll call out, and, we may or may not know these people, but they've made a huge difference in my life. Anjana Harvey, currently serving as Global CIO for Fresenius Medical. Candice Dingman, currently heading a CIO position in a major law firm in the Midwest of the United States. And, just the teachers that allowed us to dream big. Aditi Mishra, Ritu Mathur, these are, significant leaders of academic stature in India, which is where I was raised. So I'll pause there and let you continue the introductions.
Yeah, I think we could probably, all of us could go on and on for all the people we would want to thank. And I have to say, we are creating, somebody said, the Women's History Month, March is the Women's History Month, but we are creating history today. And so important, as you said, we need role models. We need to make sure that the women can aspire to somebody who they see. We have corporate members in Wilda, and we are, our corporate members, one of the women said, C-suite ladies, said that when I was climbing my ladder, she's a, Fortune 10 CFO, and now the EVP. And she was telling me, she said, Asha, when I was climbing the ladder in my career, I wasn't sure. I wanted to have a family and kids and work, and I wanted to have it all, but I didn't know if I could. And she said, we had this corporate, program where I got to hear a C-suite woman who had it all. And when I saw that, I could believe that I can have a family and have a career. And that helped me reach where I am today. And she said, it was such an impressional moment for me in my early 20s to see that. And so I cannot emphasize enough, Kamini, how important it is that we recognize women who are to make sure that we pay and we make sure you're in the position they are in. Trisha, you and I met at the summit. You came to the summit, Wilda Summit, and got to see and experience Wilda. You were recommended by your CIO, to promote you and to sponsor you and to shine the light on you. Who would you want to sponsor? I know, and you've met quite a few Wilda women now. Who would you like to actually wish happy International Women's Day, but also maybe call out and share who inspired you? And you're on mute.
Oh. You're not able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Asha, and happy International Women's Day to everyone on this call and everyone who's tuning into this broadcast. So, like Samta and Kamini, I would want to extend thank yous or acknowledge everyone who's had it, or all the women who have had an impact in my life throughout my career. As you said, I'm relatively new to Wilda, I joined just recently, and we, within WLDA, we have a cohort where it's a group of women who are supporting each other, both professionally, personally, with any struggles you may have, or even just coming together to celebrate our wins. So that has been very impactful in a very short amount of time. And as you said, the CIO who I'm working with now, just like you said, mentoring, shining a light, sponsoring, that is something that she actually shows that. She does that in her everyday life with me. But I'd like to call out a little more personal, my mom and my aunt, who were technologists. My mom is retired and my aunt has passed away, but they were technologists way back when I was in high school and just learning about coding. And they represented for me what was possible when I didn't even have an idea about technology. And just their example of being women in tech, being, obviously women of color in tech, it was a representation at such an early age that this was something that I could do. And they were leading the way for me. And obviously other women blazed that trail for them, but it was right there in my family. And it was very impactful. So much so that not just, myself, but the other women in my mom's side of the family are also technologists. So I just want to shout out my mom and my aunt for, just for being that representation.
That's awesome. I have to say that I think who we are today, if you look back, it's, they say that from the childhood to your adulthood, it's the people you surround yourself create an impact, an impression on you, and you become a little bit of all of those, just, of course, genetically who you are, but also your surroundings make you who you are. I want to emphasize, and I was telling a story earlier to all of you on the panel, that I think men who support us, I think in WLDA, we included our male allies because we know that this journey, we can't take it alone. We can't sit in a silo in a closed room and say, oh, let's bring equality and women sit alone. I think so many men, I can go on and on. Accenture, Lee Barrett, was it Joe Azagari, and many others who have Hirsch from Accenture who supported us. There are so many men. It was Michael Kingston, and I can go on and on with all the men who supported when we started WLDA. But I feel that this is not possible if men and women come together. I've heard when women, they say, oh, women didn't support women, early on. And I think the world has changed now. Women are supporting each other. WLDA, we support each other. We cheer for, we got a great position, or you're transitioning, how can we help you? Or so I think women are supporting each other a lot more, but I think men are supporting women too. And I want to call out on International Women's Day, all the men who stand by their mothers, their sisters, their daughters, their peers, their, co-workers, everywhere you go and you support another, a woman to get ahead and respect her as a leader and hear her and see her. I definitely want to call out all the male allies, and I want to call out for all their progressive mindset to see diversity is a crucial piece of our success. It's not about gender, it's not about color or race or age, it's about content, what you bring to the table, and recognize people for the value they add instead of just seeing one or the other thing. So I just want to, I know this is a important topic that even though it's an International Women's Day, we want to make sure we call out everyone who supports in this gender equality and parity and equity issue. I'll start with you, Kamaini. I'm sure as you were climbing your ladder or journey of progression, there were not just women, there were also men who supported you. So anything you want to add on to?
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you spotlight the allies one, right? But I will say that, I didn't get to where I got to today without not just allies and not just male allies. I got here because the males were willing to be sponsors too. And so in that definition of the sponsor that's willing to not only put you in the limelight, not only give you that space at the table, not only invite you to the table, but also burn political capital in betting on you. I just can't not be grateful for at least 3 significant such men in my life. I think the first one was very, very early in my career journey. It was in my early 20s, bumbling engineer right out of school, didn't know what I was doing, put on a mission critical program, taking a 64 slice was the state of or standard of care at the time in CT technology. If I hadn't had this gentleman being my mentor, structured and assigned mentor, and what he did to help me navigate a very complex engineering coordination between firmware, multiple, physical assembly engineering feats, I wouldn't be here. And in fact, he ended up being my most pivotal mentoring relationship in life, because he was the one who spotted and he said, Connie, right? You're an software engineer. You're a great software hacker, but you're a really good analytical person. And I kid you not, if it hadn't been for him spotting that, I probably wouldn't even have made the pivot into full stream, analytics and pursuit of data and analytics in that sense. And so to him, couldn't be more grateful. If names are helpful, his name's Parmal Shah. The second sponsor, really, sponsor and ally, came in the form of my early days into a formal chief data officer circuit, financial services, Greenfield. To this date, I joined them right after the great banking bailout of 2009. And this was Santander, and it was the US CDO at the time. And he's now gone on to own a much bigger slice of the CDO organization and remit at Santander globally. He owns all of Americas now. Peter Flanagan, I mean, to this date, I know he is my speed dial for, I need a bailout job, boss, would you hire me back? So it couldn't describe to you how much it meant to have had his sponsorship, for him to have given me progressively 3 really complex incremental responsibility and spotlight roles in that journey at Santander. And then the third one that I can't say enough about, Krishna Chariot. He was my boss at BMS. He started the fledgling then enterprise information management practice for the company. And he went on to leave that baton as an interim chief data officer to me as he was stepping out. And so, yes, I can't be more supportive of this notion of that if you don't have the men along in that journey on a spectrum from allies to sponsors, quite frankly, we're not going to push, even if we're not trying to be trailblazers. The trailblazer women were 2 decades before us. Even as we just try to push that boundary of proverbial ceiling up and further, we're not going at this alone. We need these men. Asha.
Yeah, now I'm on mute. I could agree more, Kamini, that without having a mentor and a sponsor in your career, it's going to be hard. If it's a man or a woman, we need to have mentors and sponsors. Listen, I started my first business because I had my mentor, Steve Fleschner, who pushed me. He said, go ahead and build your own business. And I didn't believe in myself. I was like, what? I'm so young, early 20s. And because he pushed me, I could start a business. Cliff Shore, a professor at Columbia University, said, you can teach. And he pushed me to come and do guest lectures. And there I am. I'm a faculty at Columbia University, So if you don't have these people who give you a little extra push, and hopefully, our listeners can be the one who's pushing another woman to get ahead. I think we all need a little extra push. Trisha, I'm going to come to you. Who has been, I'm sure you've had women and men who've helped you in your entire life, starting from your mom and your aunt. Can you talk about, have you had a male ally, a male leader, male sponsor in addition to female sponsor?
Yes, I absolutely have. And like you said, where would we be without them? We need them. And I, very early in my career, my focus was on developing. I wanted to be a rock star coder, and that was all that I had my sights on. And I was working at a law firm. I'm in the legal industry, and I left that law firm to go work at another company. But a week later, I got a phone call. And it was from my boss's boss, who I didn't know at the time, but my boss had also resigned. And he thought, and his name is Dirk Eckard, and he said, I know you would be good at this role. And I was thinking to myself, what are you talking about? You know, I'm not a lead, I'm a developer. This is what I do. And that's where my heart was. But he somehow convinced me to come back and to give it a try. And it was great, and it worked out, obviously. But later, I ended up leaving that firm, and I went to work at another firm where I'm currently at. And my director there, he has been my biggest advocate for everything professional. And even personally, he's just always been that support. And so much so that, we worked together for 20 years. Really long time. And he has always, when you don't see it in yourself, I've had male allies that are just always pointing it out for me until I eventually learned to do it myself. But they have always been the one to say, what about this? Or what about that? I think you'd be great at that. And I would always look at them like, you're kidding, really? But they were always right. And they didn't have to do it, but they were just really great mentors and really great sponsors, and wanting, rooting for my success, even when I didn't know it at the time. But they really were, really big influences in my professional life as well as my personal life. And the second person, Will McDonald, he was the director that I worked with. I'd like to give him a little call out there.
Very nice. And you know what, I have to say, Trisha, that as you mentioned, having a little extra push from at all levels, right? It could be a C-suite, it could be your director, it could be your peer, it could be even when employees make your life easier, when your team is like, we get you, you're trying to multitask, and we get you that you're having a hard day. I think anywhere and everywhere, all support is welcome when you're having a hard day. Samta, I want to go to you. You've climbed the ladder pretty quickly in your career, and I'm sure you have team members who are all male, and you have peers who are male and probably older than you, and you've probably had easy days and hard days with just men or women at work. So tell us, what makes it easier for you? What helps you, and what could be a reason or lesson our listeners could learn from, and why would you call out a male leader who's a sponsor or a mentor?
Yeah. So who am I kidding, Asha? Like you rightly said, right? Like this, in all of my career, this time is the first time I will have a female boss. I have only had male bosses throughout my career. Definitely a lot of male peers, very few women in the room. And I really feel like from my first boss till my last boss before I moved to Ernst & Young, I am in touch with all of them, and I'm thankful for all of them. And, kind of like taking on the thread that Kamayani, you and Tricia said, right? They have tapped on my shoulder when I didn't know that I was ready to take a role. And they literally were like, I need you to run this business for me, and I know you can do it. And it almost was like, oh, but like, I don't have that sector knowledge, and I don't know how to do it. And my boss was like, but I know you're going to do it, and here's your job. Right. So I am like extremely thankful for those experiences, extremely thankful for my mentors, my male allies, my supporters. And Kamani, you made a very good point about sticking your neck out. Right. So I feel like I've been very fortunate because my bosses have stuck their neck out for me. whenever they had to, right? And again, referring to all the male bosses. But I also want to not forget what my dad and my husband have done for me and how they have kind of helped me in spite of not being in my professional career, but like growing up in India, as we all probably know, there are families where there are certain restrictions if you're a female child versus a male child. And in my house, the only rule was that you have to tell us the truth about where you are and what you're doing, but you go do you. And it was never like, oh, you're going to do engineering? It's a male dominated field. You're probably going to be the only female in the class. And it was never like that. So growing up, I never even knew that there was such a big distinction in like what men could accomplish versus what women could accomplish, because my parents never spoke about it that way. And I have a younger sister. So both of us were like, yeah, it's fine. Like, we'll go do this. And our friends were like, what? Like, you're going to go do this? Like, your parents are okay with it? And we're like, yeah, it's fine. And so I feel very thankful for that. And my husband, like, he and I have known each other for 20 years. We have a kid together. And he is not one of those people who'd be like, oh, you're the mom, so you have to do this, and I'm not going to do this. And it's never about like him babysitting the kid, but it's about us raising our child together. And I think that makes a lot of difference. I mean, that kind of gives me the ammunition to be able to go conquer and do whatever I want to do. And I'm very thankful for that.
You know,
Asha,
so well
we
said,
have to
Samita.
call this one out.
I know, I
think
was going to say that.
Yay!
the
I got
equity
cherries.
a spouse creates, the equity a father creates. We cannot even start to address equity without that.
You know, you're so right. I have to say, I have to call my dad now, because I remember when I was getting married, Samta, I got married very early, very, very early. And my dad wasn't happy that I chose to get married that early. And he went to my husband. My husband actually never told me that. He just told me recently. He said that he took him on the corner and said, I'm okay because you're a good guy. Family's great. I'm okay. She wants to get married. She has to still finish her education. He said, you have to promise me you let her finish her education as long as she wants to study. She wants to do her master's, undergrad, master's. And he said, you have to promise me that you will let her become independent. And not just any job, you would let her be the boss. Because a lot of times women, you know, and especially my dad was growing up in an era where women, if you're a secretary or if you're not at a status, you won't get respect. So his whole thing was that my daughter has to get respect. When she walks in a room, people should stand up. And so he actually said that to my husband. He said, you have to promise me you let my daughter succeed in her career, because I want her to never be in a position where she's asking you for money. And I tell you, and my husband said, I was so proud to meet another man who cared about, you know, his daughter like that. And I think you're so right, Samta. I don't think we could get ahead, and Kamaini and Trisha, I don't think we can get ahead if we didn't have men in our life who supported us, who wanted this world to be a better place for their daughters. You know, they wanted this place to be better for the world, because if you make the world a better place for your daughter, you know you're creating a better world, period. And I meet so many guys professionally who say, I have a daughter and I want to do good, you know, and they consciously want to do good. And I think that's so important, that as a women leaders, as WLDA, as women leaders in data and AI, we all recognize the value of our peers, women and men, who come together to support each other and promote each other and make sure that everybody gets ahead. It's not that I just need to get ahead alone, because then you're not doing justice. What I want to make sure is that I want to just touch upon, I know we can go on forever, but I want to touch upon a little bit before we close. A quick story about, do you know that we didn't even introduce each other, ourselves? Hopefully just the world knows who we are. We are the, stars, that we don't have to give a formal introduction. But before we close, just do a very quick introduction about your work, because work gives you only so much identity. It's more about who you are as an individual, as a leader, as a compassionate professional, and how you care about paying forward, and especially the power we have as data and AI leaders, as tech leaders in this world, which is going to be all digital, and everything we do is going to be controlled by, data. You are in a very pivotal position, and each one of you are writing history. Each one of you are in a position where what you do today is going to create history for us. So tell us a little bit about your journey and what was your pivotal moment where you were transformed as a professional. And what was that pivotal moment that you feel really created the difference for you? And hopefully our listeners can learn from that. And maybe that there is a story for them. And I will just share real quickly. For me, my pivotal moment was when from being a programmer, an engagement manager at a consulting firm, I landed up becoming a entrepreneur, because I realized that taking calculated risk, having a mentor and a sponsor, making sure I had a client, I jumped into or transformed as a leader by creating something bigger than me. And I think that's where I learned that my transformation happened when I had the courage to take the leap, is where my transformation happened. But I couldn't take that leap without having support. So that's where I think my, Trisha, I'm going to go to you. What would be yours?
So one of the themes, and I know that we've all talked about this throughout my career, is just having other people see things in me that I just wasn't seeing for myself. And I think having that happen enough times, really, I started to question myself these things. And, you know, I started asking myself very routinely one question: why not me? Why not me? Almost like on a weekly basis, whether it's a speaking engagement, whether it's a position I'm interested or something to that effect. Just getting in the habit of asking that question just has been really, I guess I would say it's been pivotal for me, because it's forced me to raise my hand, you know, more often. And I think, you know, as women, if we start to do that a little bit more rather than waiting for that tap on the shoulder, I think that can be a real game changer for all of us.
I agree with you. I think a lot of times I get in trouble because I raise my hand all the time. But I think you learn so much by raising hand. I think all my experimentation of what I really like is because I raise my hand and try to learn what, self-discovery comes from raising hand too. I love that. What about you, Samta?
So mine were a little different, or are a little different. So for me, I think the biggest transformation happened when I moved from India to the US to go to school. And the reason I say that is because it was very different growing up. Like, I never stayed away from my family. I'd never had to earn my living, so to speak, right? And I never had to, I had never thought I would ever be like a watch person in a museum to make minimum wages so that, I could survive here in the US. And I say that all with a lot of gratitude and thankfulness in my heart, because that experience made me what I am today. And that experience kind of taught me how no job is a small job. So even if today I have to do something, that probably is not what everyone does at, where I'm at, but I would still do it, because it teaches you the value of being yourself, your whole person, and how you can actually accomplish anything and everything if you put in hard work into it. So I think that was pivotal. And I promise the next thing that I'm going to say, I am not paid for. It is not a paid infomercial, but I am thankful for WLDA. And I do think that was very pivotal for me. And the reason I say that is because there were many times in my journey that I felt alone, that I felt like I did not have a way to brainstorm, to talk about data and AI and say, hey, look, here's a problem I'm trying to solve. Or I think, hey, here's the next big thing in data and AI. And I never had people to bounce that off of, because I had mom friends, they work, but some of them are doctors and some of them are in different spheres, who were like, what are you talking about? I have no idea, like, go do your thing. And, but all working professionals. So I think WLDA gave me that, not only, again, like, being able to do that, to say bouncing off ideas and looking at what's coming next and how do we shape it up and what are challenges that everyone in the industry is facing, but also to have this network that I can rely on, fall back And I know, Asha, you didn't pay me for this, but maybe later we can talk about a compensation here. But good for now.
I was just thinking, I was like, wow. I didn't know. You know what? I tell you something. When it's sincere and authentic, you can feel it. We were sitting, I was telling Kamini yesterday, we were sitting around the dinner table in Puerto Rico for our moderators retreat. And Himali was sitting next to me. And we were just going around and just casually saying what we're thankful for. And Himali just starts talking about, WLDA and the women in WLDA. And she said, I have to tell you, and I wish you were there because I was having goosebumps. And she said, she looked at everybody and she said, you are the reason why I feel I can do it. And she's amazing. I mean, she went to IIT in India and she ranked number 1 in her whole state in high school. And this is like a really smart woman. And she's looking at all the women around the table, and she said, "I'm so thankful for WLDA and so thankful for each one I interact here because you inspire me to do more." And I was like, I couldn't believe that. This is the power you all have on these women. You have on each other, that you are inspiring others to do more. How great what a great position to be in, right? And Kamini, I was mentioning to you earlier. Yesterday when you said, what I got was the speed dial. I have these women who speak my language, live my life, and I can pick up the phone and call and say, I'm having a hard day. So I'm going to pass it on to you, Kamini, to do a close.
Yeah. And I'll second and third. If I had more than 2 hands, I would maybe raise more. But to the value and the pivotal moment with, investing my own time and energy, but what I get back from a woman-focused in data and AI network like WLDA, right, Asha? I genuinely do believe that you cannot put a premium. It's not to say that I don't have data professionals in my network, but there is a premium to being able to discuss it in a safe space. And even if it is just in the moment, looking at it with the gender lens, and yes, there's myopias with any lens you apply in a situation, but just being able to take that to my now speed dial Rolodex, the women that I now know who are dealing with fundamentally the same issues. I can't quite quantify that, right? It's not easily quantifiable. For all of us in analytics, I wish there was a quantification for that. And then the second one I would say that has been pivotal personally for me in my 2-decade, professional career thus far, straddling two industries thus far between financial services and healthcare, and multiple niches in healthcare, right? I think the biggest one has been more recently what I've come to realize is I think if someone trusts you to be able to field what you think is not admissible for you to take on, follow their gut, follow their lead, because I think that that's something that disproportionately affects women. We will constantly second guess our ability to be able to feel bigger, broader, things that seem adjacent even or tangential to what we do. And we don't seem to be able to spot it ourselves or think that, quite frankly, we have the credentials or the skills to field what we're being asked to step into. Take that. If you find that, whether it comes in the shape or form of a immediate superior, an organizational network, connection, a male ally sponsor or a female ally sponsor or a binary female ally sponsor, follow their lead. You will stand to gain in spades for any such move that you choose to trust, right? And so I will say that for me has been just, what has defined at least the last decade of my career in many ways.
What I'm hearing, the theme is really of the gratitude. I think we all kind of share the gratitude towards people who support women leadership, and especially on this important day of International Women's Day, when we are celebrating today, as Samta, you said, damn it, we will take that day and celebrate that day, right? We will take that day and celebrate. I mean, yes, every day should be International Women's Day. Every day should be your birthday. Probably not, then you'll get old too fast. But I think in our day-to-day life, when there are so many things happening, it's so great to pause and cherish and appreciate and look around and appreciate a woman in your life and do something small, do something big, do something or anything to make sure you're promoting. It feels so good to give. And I always say be a giver instead of a taker, because when you give, the universe takes care of you. Listen, we were supposed to be on live for 25 minutes. I think we are close to 40 minutes. We could probably go on and on, but I enjoyed having a conversation because it does feel like four friends sitting and talking. And I'm sure the listeners who are listening to us feel like they're part of this community and are engaged. I just want to mention that we as an organization have started Build a Nation, which is so we have Build a Leaders. The organization's really started for C-suite leaders, the senior leaders, but we're opening our doors to all, and Build a Nation will be the place. If you are early on in your career, or you're a mid-manager and you want to jump in, join Build a Nation. It gives you the flavor, it gives you the network, it hopefully motivates you, inspires you to do more, because it doesn't matter what title you have, the position you have, or where you are in your career, you can always continue growing intellectually, challenge yourself, and be ambitious. And ambition is your own definition. It doesn't have to be defined by what the world says. So keep hopefully doing a little bit more every day and make the most of what you got. Thank you so much. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Asha.
Thank you.
Looking forward.
Thank you.
Happy International Women's Day, everyone.
Yeah, happy International
Yeah,
Women's Day to
happy
all.
International Women's Day. Take care. Thanks all.
Bye.